Hey everybody, welcome into a Flyers game preview. I'm Kevin Durso. Today, the Flyers take on the Buffalo Sabres at 1 p.m. Before getting started, this video is brought to you as part of Flyers coverage on sportstalkphilly.com and the YWT podcast. Get all of your Flyers coverage at sportstalkphilly.com. Follow me on Twitter at Kevin_Durso and find more coverage from me over at 973ESPN.com. And be sure to listen and subscribe to the YWT podcast. Let's get started right away with this one. And first things first, let's go back to the previous game for the Flyers. They play the Rangers on Wednesday night, come away with a 4-3 win. And again, a game where they don't have everybody available to them. The Flyers were playing without several players. Again, they did get Claude Giroux back, and that was a huge boost. But mostly they were without the typical lineup again, and they had a lot of flexibility going on there. And I think you saw the disparity between the bottom six in makeshift form here like they've had, and the top six finally kind of coming back as a typical unit. Nolan Patrick playing on the wing with Claude Giroux and Kevin Hayes. That was a line that had some success. You saw Giroux and Hayes team up for a goal there in the game. And obviously the top line, the Sean Couturier, Joel Farabee, James Van Riemsdyk line, continues to do things not just at even strength, but on the power play as well. So they get the job done. The Flyers power play came through twice officially, but they scored a goal shortly after one as well, so that was like almost a third one because you still had Eric Gustafsson was on the ice with Shane Goss to spare, which is not typical unless it's right after a power play like that. So the Flyers doing a lot of good things when it came to the power play and all that stuff. They had some struggles on the penalty kill, gave up 2 power play goals to Chris Kreider. He scored the goal to complete the hat trick in the third period at even strength. But the bottom line being that there are areas of improvement still in their game, but they are getting more and more reinforcements back. For this game in particular, you're expected to get Jake Voracek back, Scott Lawton back, Oscar Lindblom back. They're all going to play on the same line just to kind of make things easy to not break up the other 3 that have had some form of success. And nonetheless, you get those guys back in the lineup, and it gives you more of a full lineup again. The only player that's missing beyond this is Travis Konechny. So that's huge for the Flyers to be getting closer and closer to getting that full group back. The other side's going to be interesting as well because Buffalo is still recovering from their COVID situation. I think, Rasmus Ristolainen has not gotten into a game yet since the end of January. He's expected to return finally tomorrow in this game, in this first game of the weekend back-to-back there, but his conditioning is going to be a question. Jack Eichel is possibly going to miss this game with a lower body injury. Once again, just like as it was early in the season, Linus Ullmark is not available for this pair of games due to an injury this time, so he's out. And again, you're looking at a situation in goal for Buffalo. So there's a lot of different things going on around this, but getting these players back gives the Flyers probably, as close to a regular lineup as they've had all season. And being one player away from that allows you to actually kind of make a full evaluation of this team, to see where they are, to see what they can do to be successful. I don't think that the lines that you see in this game are going to be reflective of what they are typically down the line, especially once Konechny comes back. But bottom line being that you're going to have a team that should be able to compete with the Buffalo Sabres to get back into this race and to get back into the swing of things regularly, because now this stretch of games where you didn't have anything going on, basically following that Washington game that kind of started everything right before the postponements happened, the Flyers have come back since this. They played on a Thursday night against the Rangers, lost in a shootout. They played in Lake Tahoe on Sunday, lost that game, obviously, poorly, and then played on Wednesday against the Rangers and got a win. And that's a lot of gaps between games. You come back, you play on Thursday, you get 2 days off, you play another game, you get 2 more days off, you play another game, 2 more days off. That's over now. They're going to play back-to-back this weekend. They're going to play 3 times in Pittsburgh next week, Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. They're right back on home ice the following Sunday. So there's no breaks here. This is really going to be the heart of your schedule coming up now, and it's going to be like this for the rest of the season. So this is a really good test to see where this team is, but you really want to start off from the beginning on the right note and get to a spot where you feel like you can start to get back into the race the way that you want to, because the Flyers really didn't miss a beat during the whole thing. They've had to play without a full lineup pretty much every single game this season. They haven't really, especially if you take out the games against the Bruins, obviously, but this is a team that's record is still good. They're right in the picture, and they're in a situation where they can find a way to continue to win games and be right near the top of the division. So this is your opportunity to start doing that with a full roster again. Let's get into some of the other details of the game, and we're going to start with the goalie matchup for this game. And I don't really see surprises on either end. Obviously, the Sabres situation right now calls for Carter Hutton to be the starting goaltender with Ullmark out of the lineup, and Hutton's going to come in. He did what he had to do in the previous game as well, kind of coming in relief to finish that game off. Hutton has a 1-4-1 record, which isn't very good, and the one win did happen to come against the Flyers this season, but he hasn't seen a whole lot of action himself, and the numbers kind of reflect where he's at, so it'll be interesting to see how he's used. And not only that, but I think back to the 2 games in Philadelphia at the beginning of the season when Hutton was the only goaltender available. It was kind of a last-minute thing. You thought that Ullmark was going to get the start. Hutton ended up getting the start due to personal reasons for Ullmark. And Hutton played that first game because it was such a light night. The Flyers didn't get a lot of opportunities. It was a convincing win for Buffalo. They went right back to Hutton the next night. And I wonder if that's going to be the case in this weekend set too, where you might have to try to turn to Hutton twice just to get through the weekend with Ullmark still out of the lineup for a little bit. So we'll see how that goes. On the other side, Brian Elliott's not a surprise either. You knew that with the back-to-back, Elliott was going to get one of these games. And given the way he played for you in Wednesday's game, I would say it's fair to go back to him right now and give him another shot. The Flyers' record and his record kind of speaks for itself. They're 4-1-0 is pretty incredible for Brian Elliott because it shows just how well he's played individually, but how well the team has played in front of him as well. This is a good opportunity to have him be the guy who kind of leads the way and keeps you in the game when things get a little dicey and allows you to take advantage of the opportunities coming the other way. So this is probably the smart move, is to get Elliott in there now, save the Sunday game for Carter Hart, and work your way back to whatever rotation you want to have when you're starting to play again a little bit on off nights where there's one night on, one night off, and you can think about going back to a guy regularly or not. So we'll see how that goes, but that's the goaltending matchup for this game. And now we get to the players to watch, and I picked Claude Giroux for the Flyers because I was just so impressed by the way he came back in this first game after being out for so long. He looked really impressive, 3 assists in the game, and that's the type of performance they need from their captain to have that kind of success. They need him to be as good as he was in those games, and the effort is usually there from him. We see that effort level, but the execution is usually not quite there, or the results aren't there. This was complete total package from Claude Giroux, and that's, not only do I look for it from him, but I wonder how the guys who are also returning for the first time, Jake Voracek, Scott Lawton, maybe not so much Oscar Lindblom or Justin Braun, because Justin Braun's not that type of player, and Oscar Lindblom, I don't know how effective he'll be given his overall conditioning and health and everything he's gone through in the last year, but I still expect a pretty solid game, all things considered. And not only that, but you look at these guys and you think, maybe they're going to be just as motivated as Claude Giroux was. The lack of practice time may not make a difference in this case. It may just work out the right way that you get to see this game and see this game be a success for a lot of guys because they're just itching to get back in the lineup. So that's where we are with that one. On the other side, I picked Victor Olofsson for the Sabres. And obviously, when you think about the guys who might miss this game, when you think about possibly having no Jack Eichel for this game, Olofsson's actually the team leader in points this season. Right now, he's got 15 points on the season. His last 5 games, he's got 2 goals and 2 assists for 4 points. And he's really been the guy whose name comes up a lot when you think of the offensive production for this team right now. He's been kind of at the center of it. He's helping out a lot with it. He's part of that top grouping that's there, and that's a guy to keep an eye on. Whenever you have a guy who's producing as much as he is on a regular basis, obviously when you go back to the previous games that Buffalo played in Philadelphia, Sam Reinhart comes to mind because he had 2 goals and had a very productive first game, but they got shut out the next night. And Olofsson didn't have as big of a role in that he scored a goal toward the end of it, but regardless, he's a guy who's dangerous in a lot of situations, power play especially, so if you're going to take penalties, you got to keep an eye on him. So I'm looking to see whatever he has to offer in this game as well and see, who can, there's going to be somebody for Buffalo that kind of gets it rolling. The Rangers had the same thing, that collectively as a team, for whatever reason, they haven't played their best games against the Flyers. The Rangers just went out and beat the Boston Bruins on Friday night convincingly, and there's no rhyme or reason for that either. But obviously, there's typically, whenever these teams have played the Flyers, there's a guy who stands out. And for Buffalo, that first game it was Reinhart. For the Rangers, the first time they played here, it was Artemi Panarin. The second time, it was Chris Kreider. There's somebody who kind of can take over the game, who's just an immovable force for this team, for the opponent at some point. So you have to try to keep that in check. I think Olofsson's going to be the guy to keep an eye on in this situation. So that's going to do it for this Flyers game preview. Couple of scheduling notes for you really quickly. No post-game video today, and there's not going to be a new podcast episode tomorrow. Probably no post-game video tomorrow either from Kyle. He's taking a week off, so we'll be back next week with that. I'll have another preview video for you tomorrow before the second game against the Sabres. Until then, you can catch up with the most recent episode of the YWT podcast. Once again, be sure to subscribe to the YWT podcast on YouTube to be notified of all of our previews and recaps and new episodes of the podcast. Follow along during this afternoon's game. I'll have coverage on Twitter at Kevin_Durso. Game updates are over at Flyerdelphia on Twitter. You can check out my game preview prior to the game and my post-game recap and 5 takeaways over at sportstalkphilly.com and 97.3 ESPN.com following the game. With that, enjoy the game, everyone, and we'll see you next time for the next Flyers game preview.